Houston, welcome in Carlos Gomez. Hello. Goodbye.
Oh man, yeah. We rockin' now for real. Yeah. BS3 Sports. Okay, sports news, get it first when you're getting out for work. Even when you're at work, acting like you're working hard when you're hardly working. I'm a maverick like Dirk, getting Franklin's like Kirk. Hold up, boy. X-Squad, you don't know them boys? Being talking facts on every topic. Overall, we just talking noise, just being boys. Covering Texas sports in them tall heels. That with the fake pass over to Elliott. Better guard your grills like a car for real. Yeah, Cowboys gonna bring a bowl back, Lord willing. Yeah, Mavericks gonna bring a ring back with Mark in it. We live sports, we talk sports, we dream sports, we eat sports. The teacher about to teach the course. Welcome to BS3 Sports. Gross. Oh man, yeah.
Welcome to the weekend wrap-up show. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whenever you are listening to this show. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. We got a great one planned. Man, recapping NFL Championship Sunday. 2 great games. NBA talk, college basketball, Conor McGregor's return to the UFC, and more. Not to mention, we will be celebrating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. Today, he is honored. Today is MLK Day. Some of you guys are off work. Some of you guys are and doing something in the community. And then last but not least, the Benny Awards to the top performers of the weekend. So, man, I want to give a shout out to my BS3 Radio Network fam, also X Squad Radio, also the No Phony Podcast Network, and newly on the sportstalkchannel.com. You can hear the show at 5 Eastern on sportstalkchannel.com. But man, title of today's show, Raheem Mostert Had a Dream. Episode 162 of the weekend wrap-up show. All right, so let's get to some NFL news from the weekend. Tom Brady goes on Westwood One radio and says he's open-minded about playing elsewhere next season. I think we've kind of knew that that could be a slight possibility. Honestly, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. He seems like he's going to be a Patriot until the end. I don't see him possibly going anywhere else. And I don't know what circumstances would bring it to that, because there's so much he's done in New England. I don't see it being any reason necessary that he would need to go somewhere else. You won all your championships here. They've been loyal. You've been loyal to them. I don't see him walking away. I don't see it happening. Other news, Jason Witten possibly returning 2020. You know, I'm a Cowboys fan, so you know, got to put my Cowboys news in there. It's time for Jason Witten to step away, though. But he could actually be playing for another team. You know, Jason Garrett's no longer the coach in Dallas. He is just got hired to coach with the New York Giants as offensive coordinator. That was on Friday, I believe. So could Jason Witten possibly be going to New York? And I think it's time for him to step into coaching. You've played long enough. You're not going to win a championship in New York. So at this point, you're just playing just to keep playing. The championship is not in your future unless you go to one of these title contenders. So be a tight ends coach, be an offensive assistant, do something like that. But at this point, trying to continue playing, I think, is just a disservice to your career. You can be a mentor without playing. You can be a highly paid assistant coach or whatever role you want to go into. And also Dez Bryant, my man Dez, 88. The third series of the number 88 in Dallas. He says he's healthy, would welcome reunion with the Cowboys, which I'm cool with that too. I actually really am. I think him coming into a role where there's no pressure, there's no, what have you done for me lately? There's no frustration, there's no doubts. I think he will come in and ball because there's no pressure. The contract's going to be low, and he said he's open. Now, granted, he probably is a lot more open now because he hasn't had a job. He didn't play all of 2019, recovering from his torn Achilles. But Dez, to me, has always been a star player, always been just one of those guys that are able to just go get the ball. Wherever the ball is, he's able to go get it. And that was one of the great things about Dez. I think he could definitely be useful on this team. So we'll see if anything comes of that. You got a new regime of coaching that could possibly work in his favor. You have McCarthy there who could say, hey, we'll give you a shot. We'll give you a non-guaranteed contract. And I think that's fair. So let's get to these games. Championship Sunday. We were all waiting for it. We couldn't wait for it to get here. And it's finally arrived. We now have our Super Bowl matchup. And it's going to be a good one. So let's start off with the Chiefs-Titans. Early on in this game, Derrick Henry came in blazing every team that he played. So at the end of the half, he had 62 yards and a touchdown. He was coming on that streak like he's been these past couple of weeks. I thought he was going to dominate again. And that's really what it was looking like. But the Chiefs had something different. The Chiefs had a different feeling about how they thought this game was going to go. And the Chiefs showed up, and they showed up in a major way like they've been doing all year long. So at the end of the first quarter, let me back up. Titans up 10-7. You're starting to think, okay, are the Titans this real? We know that they're real because they made it this far. But are they this real that they can beat the Chiefs? Then in the second quarter, they go up 17-7. And then from there on, it was all Chiefs. No scores in the third. Outscored in the second, 14-7. In the fourth, 14-7. Titans tried to make a little bit of a comeback with a touchdown pass with 4 minutes, 8 seconds left in the fourth quarter. But it was 35-24 Chiefs. A lot of trash talk going on. A lot of trash talk. Frank Clark, trash talk against Derrick Henry, which I get it. Derrick Henry has dominated. He comes into your building and he has 69 yards and a touchdown. So the Chiefs, Super Bowl appearance, first time since 1969. It has been a minute. It's been a minute. This was during the time that they had the greats. They had Tony Montana at one point. Or Joe Montana, excuse me. They had Joe Montana. Trent Green, Elvis Gerbach. I mean, the list of names at quarterback that they had coming through here. Alex Smith wasn't able to do it. And Patrick Mahomes has been the one to lead them to this Super Bowl berth. Andy Reid, shout out to Andy Reid, shout out to the staff. Patrick Mahomes, 294, 4 touchdowns. Like I said, Derrick Henry, 69 yards on a touchdown. Also, Tannehill, 209 for 2 touchdowns. He went 21 for 31. So Tannehill did what he could do. It wasn't enough. And Patrick Mahomes led the team in rushing yards with 53 yards, 1 touchdown. Sammy Watkins, 7 for 114 and a touchdown. KC was ready. And an amazing run by Patrick Mahomes. Go back and look at that highlight if you haven't done it. But he tight ropes down the sideline, breaking tackles, spin move. It was a 27-yard score, but it just seemed like he worked so hard to get those yards. And that's the greatness of Mahomes. Mahomes is not only just a throw down the field quarterback, just a pocket passer. The kid throws sidearm when he needs to. The kid can run when he needs to. His skill, the skill level of the quarterbacks right now is amazing. And the skill level of the black quarterback is amazing. Look what Lamar Jackson did this year. Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. They're able to be mobile, but also they're able to be accurate. And that's always been the knock on mobile quarterbacks, specifically the black quarterback, is that they're not able to do those things in particular. And these quarterbacks this year have been able to do it and do it successfully. So I've been impressed with Mahomes, but Mahomes again showed, and this is what the playoffs are about. This is what the playoffs are about. You got to step your game up even further. You have to step your game up to a higher level than what other teams do. And the Titans have been able to do that. So I want to give props to the Titans. Also, the celebration afterwards, man, was amazing. You've seen the Lamar Hunt family come up there, Clark Hunt. You see Andy Reid coming up there. It's been a minute for Andy Reid. A huge shout out also to Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator. But this team is given everything. They've given everything that they've had. They put it all out there on the field. And they were the one that were successful. And then you had Kelsey coming up saying, you got to fight for your right to party. Man, they were going crazy. Chiefs Kingdom was going crazy. But it doesn't get any better than that. Now, and with New England being out of the conversation, my immediate thought was it's going to be between Baltimore and KC. That was my immediate reaction and thinking. You see, Baltimore did not survive, so KC it was. So in a minute, we're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk 49ers, Packers, another great game. We all know now 49ers end up winning, and that leads to the title of today's show. Raheem Mostert had a dream. What a great game he had. Also in reference to Martin Luther King Day. Celebrate Martin Luther King, his life, his legacy, what he helped to change in this nation, being wrongfully killed. But he has done great. He's done greatness for this country. And actually, people forget his birthday is actually on the 15th. It just is celebrated on this day. So we salute you. We celebrate you, Martin Luther King Jr. We'll be right back. to the weekend wrap-up show, episode 162. Raheem Mostert had a dream, and his dream was to run all over the Packers. I'm not talking about a little bit. I'm not talking about running for 100 yards, barely. I'm talking about this dude ran for 220 on the Green Bay Packers. It was 27-0 at the half. I'm thinking, is this about to be a blowout? Are we about to see Aaron Rodgers get blown out, get shut out in a conference championship game? Mostert had 160 for 3 touchdowns, and Aaron Rodgers was 64 passing yards and interception at halftime. This was not good for Aaron Rodgers. This was not a good performance. This is not what we're used to seeing. And again, I've said it numerous times, this goes back to the 49ers defense. The 49ers defense is real. If you haven't figured it out by now, if you've been sleeping under a rock, if you've been doubting this 49ers defense, if this wasn't a wake-up call for you, it's not going to happen for you. They had 3 sacks, which may not seem like a lot, but on Aaron Rodgers, it is a lot. Anytime you can get to Aaron Rodgers is huge, because he is able to wiggle his way out of tackles, find ways to not get tackled, find ways to make sidearm throws, impossible throws that he's able to do, but did not prevail. So first quarter, it was 7-0, 49ers. Second quarter, 49ers blew up 20-0. Mostert, like I said, 3 touchdowns at the half, ending the game. So he ran for 160 in the first half. He ended up running for 220 and adding another touchdown. This is what I like about the 49ers. Before this year, by a show of hands, how many people knew who Raheem Mostert was? I didn't know. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was on the team. I didn't know any of that. And he is and was the savior of this game. And he was a superstar of this game. He's been with the 49ers since 2016. Let that sink in. He's bounced around from team to team to team. In 2017, he had 30 rushing yards. 2018, he had 261 yards. This year, he had 772, 8 touchdowns. I'm beyond happy for this kid right here. From Dayton Beach, Florida. Went to Purdue, undrafted. Started off his career with the Eagles on the practice squad. Then went to Miami. Then went to Baltimore. Then went to Cleveland. Then went to New York. Then went to the Bears. Then he made his way to the 49ers. And this was a game where Jimmy G only threw for 77 yards. He only threw for 77 yards, 6 for 8. So basically what San Francisco said is, we're going to run our running back 29 times. Stop us. We're going to run him 29 times. Do your best to stop us. That's what they said. And they couldn't do it. 7.6 yards per carry. They couldn't do it. Deebo Samuel ran for 43 yards. Tevin Coleman ran for 21 yards. But this was Raheem Mostert Day. This was it. And like I said, the title of today's show, Raheem Mostert had a dream. And his dream was to run all over Green Bay. His dream, I'm sure, was to go to a Super Bowl. And who knows? Us as kids growing up, a lot of us, specifically in the black community, would do the I Have a Dream speech in representation of Martin Luther King, either at an assembly or at church or whatever it may be. And maybe Raheem Mostert was one of those that gave that speech. And his dream obviously was fulfilled. Who doesn't want to help your team go to the Super Bowl against one of the best quarterbacks of all time? So at this point, Aaron Rodgers is 0 for 3 versus San Francisco in the playoffs. So finally, there's a team that owns Aaron Rodgers. I know my team does not. The Cowboys do everything they can They do everything they can to give Aaron Rodgers a chance to win. They give him time on the clock. They let him just run around like he's just skipping around through the playground. But Raheem Mostert, 220 yards rushing. Second most in postseason history. One of 3 players with 4 rushing touchdowns in a playoff game. He almost passed Eric Dickerson. Eric Dickerson had the record for most rushing yards, in a game. And that would have been crazy if he would have passed Eric Dickerson. But Mostert, what a great game. Great guy. I don't know him personally, but he seems like a very humbled guy that has worked extremely hard to get to this point. And he is taking full advantage. So he was 18 yards away. Dickerson had 248 in a playoff game. Almost. After the game, very emotional moment for Richard Sherman. You think about the injury that he had. I believe he tore his ACL, last year. Leaving the only team that he knew in the Seahawks. Coming over to something different. Coming over to something with the 49ers that it wasn't a lot of hopes from the outside looking in. But clearly you can see how great this defense is, how well they're coached. Robert Saleh had a chance to go somewhere else, which I thought he was going to leave at this point. What he's been able to do with this defense. But actually he decided to stay. He decided to stay and look at the success that they've had. Not only with Mostert, but there's also, I believe, one of their coaches is possibly going to be a defensive coordinator with the Browns. Sources saying Joe Woods is on track to become the Browns' defensive coordinator under Kevin Stefanski. So that's going to be interesting there. Robert Saleh was actually interviewed at possibly taking a head coaching job. So this defense has shown that they are truly the real deal. And the guys that they have on this defense, and I've talked about it before, but you really don't know a lot of them. And this game was won by defense and the running game. That was it. Jimmy G didn't do anything. Not because he didn't want to. Not because he was lazy. But because he didn't need to. He threw 8 total times. He got sacked once. But this was Mostert's day. Deebo Samuel had 46 yards receiving. That was it. Kittle had 1 catch for 19 yards. They flipped the script. They flipped the script and just showed that they can run the ball down your throat the entire game. Nick Bosa had a sack. Eric Armstead had a sack. And Kawan Williams had a sack. And Green Bay is out of the playoffs. We will not have the State Farm Bowl. It's not happening. So discount, double check right out the door. And the trash talk for this Super Bowl is going to be crazy. You got Kittle. He's a trash talker. You got Richard Sherman. He's a trash talker. You got Nick Bosa. On the other side, you got Kelsey. You got Frank Clark, who went on a rant last night. And there's so much passion on both sides. That's the greatness about this Super Bowl matchup we're about to see. There's great passion. So Aaron Rodgers ended the game with 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions as well. Devontae Adams, 9 for 138. Aaron Jones, 12 for 56 and a touchdown. And guess who ended up with one of those interceptions? Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman had 1. Emmanuel Mosley had 1. And Richard Sherman ran down that ball. If you didn't see that replay, he literally sprinted to that ball to be able to pick it off. Robbie Gould went 3 for 3. Had a very key moment in the game. He made the field goal, which put them up and pretty much put this game out of reach. Great performance, man. Great performance by the 49ers. And early prediction with the Super Bowl. We're going to have a full week next week. Well, no, the week after. Because the Super Bowl is not until that first February. That first week in February. So we got our Super Bowl media row. It's going to be interesting to hear all the interviews. And I can't wait. February 2nd is the day. And I cannot wait. So they got a full week off. Next week we'll have Super Bowl media row. And then on the second, Super Bowl. But looking at these two teams, it's going to be extremely hard to pick anything or to predict anything because both of these teams are very dominant in their own right, on offense and on defense. But if I had to lean to one side than the other, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. For a lot of reasons. Andy Reid's got a lot of experience in this game. Patrick Mahomes is arguably, you can say, the best quarterback in the game right now. If you want to be nice, you can say top 3. You could also say top 5, whatever you want to put it. But his ability, if you want to combine him to Jimmy G, you can't do it. So I'm leaning more towards the Chiefs. But it's going to be a great game. Defense, offense, going to be a great game. But we'll be right back. You're tuned in to the Weekend Wrap-Up Show. Welcome back to the weekend wrap-up show. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, my early prediction is the Chiefs. I think that they have the better team all around. 49ers do have a great defense, don't get me wrong. Their running game is amazing. Don't get me wrong. But this is the 49ers, this team, it's their first time really getting here as this unit. KC's been in the playoffs the past couple of years. And they've been waiting on this opportunity for a long time. So, I'm going to lean towards the Chiefs. That doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, but that's what I'm leaning towards. So, we'll see. Also, I want to take a quick PA announcement to say, enter in to the BS3 Radio 2020 year of giveaways. We're giving away a gift card every single month of this year to a restaurant. You heard me correctly. Every single month, we're giving away a gift card. It's very easy to do it. Very, very easy steps. If you're an iTunes user, Apple Podcasts, go on to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, subscribe, send me, BS3, Ben, send me a screenshot of it to bs3sports@outlook.com. If you have my social media, you can send it to me that way as well, whatever works best for you. I will enter you into the contest. We'll pick a name at the end of each month, and you really have a legitimate shot to win. The other way, if you don't have an iPhone and you're an Android user, shout out to Android, Team Android, you can go onto YouTube. Go onto YouTube, subscribe, hit that bell next to the subscribe button, screenshot it, send it to me, bs3sports@outlook.com, or on social media, you get entered in that way. So it's very easy. We want to reward our listeners. We also are building our audience. And what better way to do that than to give out free stuff? And that's what we're doing. So let's go to college football. College football news real quick. Isaiah Simmons, Clemson linebacker, number 5 overall prospect, according to Todd McShay's latest rankings. He will be going into the NFL draft, which I think is time. I think he is definitely at that level and looking forward to what he can do at the next level. And there's probably going to be a lot more Clemson. I think LSU, they've pretty much recognized that most of them are going to be leaving, and they've sewed that up. I think everybody from LSU that has a chance to get drafted is already announced that they're leaving. But Clemson's probably going to have more players as we get further and further closer to the draft or whenever the deadline is. Let's get to some NBA news. NBA is really about to start heating up. We're going to get those Saturday, Sunday games, especially when the Super Bowl's over. We're going to get more and more of those marquee matchups. We had 2 matchups from this weekend. The LA Lakers and the LA Clippers. The LA Lakers end up beating Houston by almost 15. LeBron with 31 and 12 assists. Harden and Westbrook combined for 69 points. It wasn't enough. Lakers outscored Houston 32-17 in the third, so that really wasn't a close game at all. They're chanting MVP at the game, and I think they were chanting it for LeBron. But that was one of the matchups from this weekend. On the flip side, you look at the Clippers that barely beat New Orleans by 3, 133-130. Kawhi with his 5th straight 30-point game. Lonzo Ball with 3rd triple-double of the season. Clippers outscored the Pelicans 31-20 in the 4th. You had Zion still on the sideline. I'm hearing there's Possibly a return coming up. I don't know when, but I do know it's going to be great to finally see him on the court. I know he wants to get on the court. I know he's got to be tired of sitting on the sideline, but it's very early in his career. Very early. No need to be in a rush. They're not going to let you be in a rush. So just get back when you're fully healthy. Also, news coming out that Steph Curry could return. Steph Curry could possibly return in March 1st, which would be interesting because I thought he was going to be out for the season. I don't really know why you want to come back. Just ride out this season because you're not going anywhere. You got the worst record in the NBA right now. And you're going to come back for a month, so a month and a half. It's not really worth it. Also, other news, Porzingis possibly making his return. He's been out 10 games. That's a lot of games. Me being here in Dallas, I want to see Porzingis on the floor, give the Mavs the best possible chance to make it to the playoffs, but also go on a little bit of a run. So let's look at the Eastern Conference. You got Milwaukee, 38-6, leading the Eastern Conference. And then you got Miami, Toronto, Boston, Indy, Philly, Orlando, and then Brooklyn. Brooklyn is in the 8th seed. Listen to this. Brooklyn is in the 8th seed, and they're 18-23. That just tells you how bad the Eastern Conference is. At the bottom of the Eastern Conference, you got Cleveland, New York, and Atlanta. And we have the NBA trade deadline coming up soon, which there's a lot of rumors swirling around. February 6th. February 6th is right around that time of All-Star Weekend. There's a lot of rumors going around. A trade did go down. The Trailblazers acquired Trevor Ariza. Trailblazers trying to build up that roster. And as we go to the Western Conference, Lakers 34-8. They have the best record in the NBA right now. Got the Clippers. So got LA, Denver, Utah, Dallas, Houston, OKC, and Memphis. Memphis is 20-22. They're at the 8th spot. San Antonio's on the outside looking in. Phoenix also. Golden State with the worst record. Sacramento with the second worst record in the Western Conference. Kevin Love possibly on the trading block. There's going to be some trades that's going to go down. It's just a matter of who, where, what, when, why, how. You remember those questions growing up in elementary school. So let's go to some college basketball. One of the craziest stats I think I've ever heard. Vanderbilt 0 for 25 from the 3. They lose a game against Tennessee. They end a 1,080 game streak of making at least one 3-pointer. So you couldn't manage to make one 3-pointer in this entire game, which has now caused you to miss out on a 1,000-game record. That's crazy right there. You hate to be that team that couldn't make a 3-pointer to end that streak. You really don't want to be. You don't want to be that team. You don't want a team that goes down in history as not being able to make a 3-pointer. I feel for these kids. I wouldn't want to be on that team. You mean to tell me you couldn't make 1 3 at all? So that sucks for them. You switch over to Louisville. Louisville with a huge upset over Duke, 11 versus number 3. That, you know what? That just warms my heart. I'm a North Carolina fan, ride or die. So I will never, ever, ever, let me say ever one more time, ever be upset when Duke loses. And they lose against 11th ranked Louisville. Louisville is just one of those teams where you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what type of run they're going to go on. You don't know what their season is going to entail. But they're definitely a team that always has a chance every year. They're always in the conversation. They're always up there as a team that can slight or maybe go on a run. They end up beating Duke. Cassius Stanley at 24 and 11 rebounds. Wasn't enough. Louisville led at 15 at one point in time. Got a little rough during the game. Cassius Stanley and Darius Perry getting tangled up. They were face to face, had to be separated, and there was some frustration there. If you're a Duke team, you definitely don't want to get beat and to get upset. You don't want that. And these are kids, so there's going to be frustration there. Also, another upset, DePaul with a major upset over number 5 Butler. Paul Reed scored 23 points, 8 for 9. Jalen Coleman lands with 20 points. Big win for the DePaul program. Butler's still up there. Butler is still up there in the rankings. They're still doing their thing. Always excited to see an upset. And that's what's great about college basketball. And then last but not least, Omar Payne with the best game of his college career, 19 points, 11 rebounds. Florida, unranked Florida, gets a victory over Auburn. Huge upset, 69-47. Getting closer and closer to March Madness. And speaking of teams getting upset, North Carolina loses again to Pittsburgh. Garrison Brooks with 16, 13. Xavier Johnson, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. At this very point, North Carolina is now 8-9. 8-9. This is like an NIT type year, which is very slim. Doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, you know it's bad. And I start to think, is Roy Williams possibly on his way out? Not because he's getting fired, but because he's going to retire. He said this is one of the hardest years. This is one of the least, he's even said it, this is one of the least talented teams that he's coached. I don't know if I would have said that out loud, because you still have players coming to day in, day out playing for you. You're still recruiting. But he is 1 year away from 70. Cole Anthony is still injured. And I don't know, he may not come back. He said he wants to come back and join his brothers again, but you know how this works. You know how this happened with Zion. You know Cole Anthony has a future in the NBA, so he may not come back. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works out. I don't know, but I do know Cole Anthony is a beast, and he's still going to be a top 5 pick regardless if he leaves or comes back. So that's your college basketball talk, from this weekend. Now let's get into the return of the notorious Conor McGregor, who seemed very humble Now, he's been away for a minute. Maybe he's back on his medication. But he seemed very humble. And a lot of times that happens. A lot of times you got to be knocked down. A lot of times you have to lose to really look in the mirror and see, I need to reevaluate myself. So Conor takes care of Donald Cowboy Cerrone 40 seconds into the first round. TKOs him. Second fastest UFC win of McGregor's career. And Conor basically hit this dude with 2 or 3 shoulder shrugs. I don't know if I've ever seen that to start a UFC match, number one. I don't know if I've ever seen that, period, to that effect. Cowboy Cerrone was caught off guard, and immediately his eye was swollen. They didn't have time for him to go to the corner. It wasn't time to put ice on it. It was, as soon as he came in, I think he did a high knee, and then he just hit him with a couple of shoulder shrugs, and it was over. And then after that, he hit him with his statement left hand. He says the hard work paid off, Conor. He was happy to use a head kick to get the victory. And he TKO'd the dude. And he said that's what he was going to do. Normally, when Conor says he's going to do something, he does it. Except when you're fighting Mayweather, and except when he fought Khabib. Because Khabib was done by the time he walked in there. Khabib would have been ready to kill Conor, the way he was disrespected. Dana White, one of the best promoters in sports, comes out and says that Conor will fight Khabib again following the TKO of Cowboy. And if Dana White normally says it, it normally happens. And if he says it, and you know it's going to give everybody excited, you know it's going to give everybody a rile, and that's what he does. He is perfect at that. He's like a Jerry Jones with that. Jerry Jones will put stuff out there on Sunday mornings before games. He'll put stuff out there on Saturday nights. He'll put stuff out there on Monday morning, just like he did with the McCarthy hire. And that's Dana White. Dana White will put something out there immediately after a fight to get you thinking, to get you talking, to get you wanting to experience what he's feeling and wanting you to get excited about it. So Conor with a huge TKO win. No, this wasn't for a belt. No, this wasn't for a championship. But this was the return of Conor McGregor. Now, is he fully ready to go back up against Khabib? Because that means ground and pound. That means doing things that he normally does not do. And he will not win if he goes into it with the same mindset he had before. McGregor also said he's not ruling out Nate Diaz. He says, right here, Nathan. Trash talker. But that was over so quickly. Anybody that ordered that fight, I feel sorry for your bank account, because it wasn't enough time for you to even it wasn't enough time for you to even come late. It wasn't enough time for you to get a bathroom break. It wasn't enough time for you to get some snacks. It was over. It was done and over with the quickness. Conor McGregor returns, getting a lot of congratulations. Got some from LeBron. Non-UFC or UFC fans. Now, this doesn't negate the fact that Conor McGregor is still an idiot outside of the octagon. I'll need proof to show that he's not the same person. Because the moment where he slapped the guy in the bar, the moment where he threw the barricade into the bus, None of that stuff is forgotten. But in the octagon, he is back. So we'll say who he fights next. Dana White says Khabib is definitely up. McGregor said he's not against fighting Nate Diaz for a trilogy. Maybe you give us the Nate Diaz first, part 3. And then if you can do the Khabib, I think that's a great lineup right there. So other news as we switch over towards the end of the show, we will do the Benny Awards to the top performers of the weekend. You can put those in the chat room whenever you like. Thank you for listening, morning, noon, or night, whenever you're listening. Also, to make sure to enter into the BS3 Radio Year of Giveaways. Very easy to do. But we talked on Friday about all these scandals that happened in Houston with the Houston Astros, where Jose Altuve says that it's ridiculous that he wore a buzzer, and also says we're going to the World Series again. I don't think so. I don't think it's happening. You don't have the same manager. It's very difficult to get back to the World Series. Not only is it difficult to get back, but it's difficult to win. And I think they've had some great runs. But this is definitely going to, I think, mess up their psyche. Also, I think this is going to mess up them getting players coming here. They do have a great pitching staff. I agree with that. They do have great hitters. They've got a lot of greatness on this team. But I just don't think they're going to make it back. It's very hard to do. It's not just a snap of the finger and you go back to the World Series. That's not how it works. Also, the Red Sox, trade rumors swirling around. Boston wants to package David Price in the Mookie Betts talks. Which, if you could get both of those guys, Mookie Betts is obviously MVP. David Price, a great regular season pitcher. When it comes to postseason, he has his ups and downs. But hey, to get 2 for the price of 1, those aren't too bad players, for sure. So it is at that time in the show where we do the Benny Awards to the top performers of the weekend. It could be in sports. It could be in life. It could be wherever. But we do it every Monday on this show. You have your Bennies. You have your Emmys. You have your Oscars. You have your Grammys. Well, these are the Bennies. And it's an unlimited amount. So don't worry. You can give out more than one. So there's a few that I need to give out. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes. 294, 4 touchdowns. The quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. Arguably the best in the game. Top 2, 3. He's going to have, I thought he already had a contract extension, if I'm not mistaken. I looked this up the other day, and then I think I forgot about it. But whatever his new contract's going to be, if he hasn't received it yet, it's going to be massive. Highest paid quarterback ever. And more so if he wins the Super Bowl. Yeah, he has not been signed this year. This year, his base salary, $735,000. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He did get a signing bonus of 2.5, roster bonus of 1.9, but still, this dude's base salary is $735,000. He's about to get paid. Also, I'm going to give a Benny Award to Raheem Mostert. 220 yards, 4 touchdowns. Title of today's show. Raheem Mostert had a dream. And that dream was one day he would run all over the Green Bay Packers, which he did. I'm going to give another one. To the teams that had upsets this weekend: Louisville, DePaul, also Florida, big wins. I'm going to give one to Kawhi and LeBron. LeBron had 31 and 12. Kawhi's fifth straight game of 30 points. And last but not least, Conor McGregor makes his return to the octagon. Not only does he make his return, but he makes his return and he dominates. TKO over Donald Cowboy Cerrone. So, thank you to each and every person for tuning in. If you're tuning in via the podcast, morning, noon, or night, you're tuning into the replay of the show on BS3 Radio. You're tuning in wherever you are. Much appreciated, much love. Make sure to check out the show Sports on sportstalkchannel.com Mondays at 5 Eastern. Also, check out all the great shows on BS3 Radio. We had Courtney Harden that had a action-packed, star-studded show last week. On Saturday, he had Brian Snow. He also had Eric Fernandez, also Jessica Slate, three great guests. Also, my man Al High had a show yesterday, Ready for a Championship, episode 17, talking about Championship Sunday. We had the TENT Sports Podcast this week, dropping his debut episode for BS3 Radio. He's been in the game for a minute, though. 70 episodes in, newly member of BS3 Radio. Also, we had Eagles versus Everybody. We had my show on Friday, who's going to the Super Bowl. Go back and listen to that show. My picks were right. But thank you to each and every person for tuning in. Have a good rest of your week. I will be back on Saturday, doing a Saturday show this week. I'll let you know specifically on what the time will be, but it'll be action-packed. It'll be star-studded. Guys, have a good rest of your week. God bless. God is love. Peace. Also, before I go, celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for giving us a dream. Thank you for contributing to the future of this country. And you gave your life to do it. So salute to you. Salute to his family. Celebrate your life. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Peace.